Coming up on All About Android, Juan Bagnell is filling in for Jason Howell. We're going to talk all about Google's new privacy nutrition labels and why it's forcing TUFA on your devices. We're also going to talk about a very interesting Lenovo tablet with HDMI. Plus, Juan's got a gaming phone review for us. All of this and way much more is coming up right here next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Smooth it out, fellas, with Manscaped. Get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com/twit. And by Audible. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment. Delve into your next title on Audible with Audible Plus. New members can try Audible Plus for 30 days. Download the Audible app and get started with a free trial at audible.com/allaboutandroid or text All About Android to 500-500.
Welcome to All About Android. This is episode number 524, recorded May 11th, 2021 on a Tuesday. We are your weekly source for the latest apps, news, and hardware for the Android faithful. I'm Florence Ion.
And I'm not Jason Howell. I'm Ron Richards, and Jason Howell is off this week, and thus Flo and I are trying to steer the good ship All About Android and bring it into port and entertain you all for the next 90 minutes or so. We'll do our best, but we're very excited because while we miss Jason terribly, it's always wonderful to keep up the Jason rivalry with Mr. Juan Bagnell, who's here. So when Jason's off the show, that's when Juan comes in and steps in for the big guy. So welcome.
It's because Juan makes us look good. You make us look good, Juan, so that when I mess up the title, you're here with your shiny camera, you're just there with your bright smile. Hi, Juan. How you doing?
Hey, I'm always excited to join you guys for a fun geeky conversation about some cool tech. It is giving me a bit of a complex that I'm almost never on the show with Jason. I think we pulled it off once in the last couple of years.
It is really funny, and it's not by design. It's not by like it's literally like so just so everyone knows, like Flo and I deeply care about Jason. Like, he is a wonderful human being. Yeah. He's fantastic. He's so much fun to do a show with. And whenever we lose him, I think it's like almost like when he's not on the show, it's like, well, who else makes us feel that good? Oh, Juan does, right?
Oh, guys. It's true. I'm going to be like glowing over here. That's maybe the nicest thing I've ever heard anyone say about me. So please know that it's reciprocated, and I feel exactly the same way. I know as we start trying to figure out the new normal, I am seriously trying to figure out dates and travel and talking to you guys about maybe trying to do some kind of in-person meetup because it's been just far too long. So know that I've got real designs on making that happen.
Likewise. I am itching to get on a plane, man. You have no idea. So hopefully we can all do that soon, and that will be wonderful. But in the meantime, we have technology to bring us together. And you, the listener, can use technology to get closer to us, and you can help start the new year off on the right foot. So go to Apple Podcasts and give us a good review. Why don't you do that? I don't know if it's start the new year off. It's May, but still start the mid-year off on the right foot.
It's our new year, Ron. It's our new year. We did our full year around the moon or around the sun.
Oh yeah, happy post-belated birthday, Flo.
Happy belated birthday to us.
Couple of days ago was me and Flo's birthday because we are both born on the same day, which is crazy. Which is also crazier is that it took several years before we realized that, which I thought was fascinating. But anyway, go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you leave a review, we really appreciate it. It helps spread the word about the show. And also, tell your friends. Like, it's great to leave a review or do a thumbs up on YouTube or whatever. But honestly, the best thing to help spread the word about podcasts is word of mouth. And if you have friends who are into Android and you're like, hey, if you're not listening to All About Android, you got to go listen to it. Just do that. It takes 2 seconds. We really appreciate it.
Exactly.
So. All right. So with that, Flo, you are leading us off at the news desk.
That's right. So, but first, we got to run that bumper. Let's do this, Burke.
Well, I got nothing. I got no nutrition labels either.
What is happening to us today?
You gotta love Jason is the glue. I mean, Juan, we love you, and your shot. Those watching the video know your shot looks amazing.
I can't help with the bumpers. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to give Burke a slight pass. Burke just finished his vaccine. He's coming to us after a couple of days of fever dreams. So I do appreciate Burke for being here. So thank you, Burke.
Thank you.
I'll let that slide. Yeah. You know what's not sliding? God, they are not going to just get off our backs about Android not being private and secure. And so what does Google go and do? It goes and it launches privacy nutrition labels to let us all know how our favorite apps are doing in the Play Store. So coming soon, no exact timeline of when yet, but coming soon, there's going to be a new safety section in the Play Store that's going to be a little more accessible, a little more readable for the lot of us, the every user. This is going to basically identify those apps that have data access and a bunch of just permissions so that you're not having to expand, the column in the Play Store to see what's going on. You're not having to go in and search for the terms that you need to know before you download an app. This will let you know exactly what permissions an app needs, what access it needs to before it even goes onto your storage. Now, developers will be required to label all of that information starting this year, and they will start getting in trouble if they don't adhere to the new guidelines by next year. I'm sure we'll hear just a little bit more about this at Google I/O next week. But for now, I think that this is something we should have had a while ago. I don't know. What do you think, Juan? How are you navigating the Play Store when it comes to things like, permissions?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's something that I completely agree. It's something that the best time to have had this would have been, 5 years ago. So I guess the second best time to have had it is tomorrow. No.
And before Apple announced it, right? Because this, feels like a real play for the feature that Apple had announced, where I think permissions are turned off by default when you download an app, things like that.
Well, that's totally in the consumer zeitgeist right now, is especially with, social media kind of leading that conversation about how our data is collected, how our data is being used, how our content's being manipulated. And this is also something where I feel like because Google isn't the main force in Android phones, in Android phone hardware, some of those conversations about privacy kind of get left to Google's competitors. So when Apple gets to define what privacy should look like, it's much more difficult for Google and for Google's partners to kind of respond when you've got like a consortium of Android manufacturers as opposed to one single point of software security. So this is good catch up. It is catch up. This is something that I feel like, especially given Google's reputation, they should have been more proactive about. But we're at least getting there now. And hopefully this just continues to inform consumers better. Anything that kind of adds to this conversation, that empowers consumers, that helps them manage all of their apps, services, and data is really only going to be a net positive in the long run. Which
it's hard to argue, like, period, right? Like, it's completely hard to argue, right? I mean, it's one of those things where it as we continue, it's hard to believe that this space has been like the smartphone space and digital ecosystem and all this stuff has been around for more than a decade at this point, and it's still maturing, right? We're still seeing this, kind of things like this needing to be put in place both on the Apple and on the Google side in order to protect both, users and devs and everybody in its place. Yeah. And I think I did a double take reading this where it's like, it's 2021. We don't have this already, so. But better late than never, right? I mean, and I don't really care. Sure. Yeah, and I don't care too much about the Apple stuff. I think it's good for everybody. So. No. Yeah,
this is not a partisan issue. This isn't an iOS or Android issue. This is a consumer issue, and data is absolutely the next critical stage. So also Google getting on top of this means that they're likely reading the room and looking at regulators across the globe. And again, they should have been a bit more proactive, but we know that the future fights in the legalities of data and services are all going to be coming down to these types of disclosures. So better now. Get it done and get it done right so that we know.
Better now that you're in court on like 3 different continents. I mean,
right. Exactly. Probably would have been better before you were in a bunch of courts. But again, it's the right direction to go in.
Or Europe. Just all of Europe. I feel like this is the kind of thing the EU jumps all over, and so like it's a good thing that they're getting ahead of it. So yeah.
Well, because doesn't this also dovetail with them changing up some of their business model on advertising and how cookies function? I mean, this is a Google that's looking at the future of all of their services and how they're monetizing. And I feel like you were saying, Flo, when we start getting into developer conferences, this is going to be major talking points because we're all going to have to completely re-examine the app economy of how data is monetized.
Yep.
Well, and that's how Android is also vilified across the board from its competition. Is it's this very like unsafe place. So I think just making it.
But that's also a bit of a myth. I mean, like while there are examples and stuff has happened, and we're gonna get into that later in the show with some of our emails or our email of the week, in fact.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you, Burke. But yeah, so and I lost my train of thought. No, yeah, but it's important. It's just important. So, but the Android, it's a myth that Android is an unsafe place. There are examples, but there are examples on the iOS side. There are examples everywhere. Like people are going to figure out how to game the system, and they're going to try to cut corners or figure out there are malicious people out there. And it's up to Google. I think Google has done a great job of working against that and building Android to be a safe place as long as you stay within the confines of the pseudo walled garden.
Guaranteed.
And this is why the disclosure is so critical, because I feel like this empowers consumers to kind of pick and choose a bit better about where their failure might be. And again, I know a lot of people in our circles are going to shrug or say like, oh, well, my family and friends don't care. But getting the information out there better, this is the right time. More and more consumers are starting to care about this kind of stuff. So, you can make a better informed choice when you kind of understand when you kind of understand better what the business model is. Like, how is Google monetizing versus how is Apple monetizing? And there isn't one winner there. There is going to be just a collection of pros and cons.
Right.
Pros and cons. Ron, what about our next little news item? Some pros and cons there, would you say? Or maybe just a lot of pros?
A lot of pros. So this past Thursday, May 5th, not Flo and I's birthday, but May 5th, was World Password Day. Which I forgot to send you guys cards. I'm sorry. There would have been a password to get into the cards.
I was going to say, anyway, it'd be encrypted. Yeah. I'd have to do some sort of,
Yeah, exactly. But on World Password Day, Google published a blog post that claimed it would be auto-enrolling users into two-step verification. And so for those of you who don't know, two-step verification is that prompt that appears on the phone when a Google user logs onto their account. The user taps yes or no to confirm it is in fact them. And users will supposedly be able to opt out if they wish, although I don't see why you wouldn't want to. And the thing is though, that opting users into two-factor authentication by default actually does carry risk that users might and probably will end up locked out of their accounts if they screw it up. And it's not like we haven't seen this before live on TWiT, when I did This Week in Google with Jason and he locked himself out of his own phone, which was hilarious. Ouch. But I feel like it's up to Google. I personally think that this is the right decision. And I think if you train users and force them to use two-factor authentication, it's an added layer of protection. Just today, in fact, someone hacked my Instagram account, and what blocked it but 2FA. Right. Like, so, I got a text saying, are you trying to log in? And then Instagram security sent me an email saying, hey, we detected a login from Mountain View, California. Is this you? And I was like, nope. And I went and changed my password, so it's two-factor authentication helps you and helps us. And if you're not using it, not only on your phone and your device and as many of the software that you can use, I recommend you use it. But, what do you think, Juan? Do you think we're going to hear horror stories of people getting locked out of their accounts because they don't know how to use 2FA?
Oh no, we're definitely going to have. Anytime you change up behavior on that. Certainly, definitely, there are going to be people who, unfortunately, aren't able to kind of cope with the change in that kind of behavior. But this is one where I'm like you were saying, man, I'm really struggling to find the downside, and I like the changes to Google's two-factor authentication. If you've got a phone handy, how it alerts you, how that pop-up happens. We're those rarefied nerds where like I get a new phone to review and I've got dozens of devices that start pinging me like, are you trying to log in? We just got another login from another Android phone. So my perspective on this is obviously vastly different than like, when my great aunt is going to have to activate this on her phone. But to that same token, unfortunately for a few of the people who might do something kind of dumb or respond to this poorly, this is one of those where I feel like we can't just let consumers keep being insecure when we have a tool that will significantly help improve data security. So this is one where, I mean, we have to just weather the storm for the few people who are going to get locked out. And we know that Google as a company doesn't always offer the best customer support to individuals when something like that happens, but we've got to empower people. We've got to kind of push them or nudge them into taking care of their data better.
Yep. Yeah. See, Juan, you said a little key there. The nudging of the people towards TUFA, obviously great all around. It's great for everybody. It should be on by default. It also takes the onus off of Google if something does go wrong. Because as when I had my Nest account hacked, my husband had his Nest account hacked, actually. He's the primary account holder. And some rando was speaking through the speakers of my security cameras and, turning on my alarm and everything.
Yikes.
Super creepy. But it was because my husband didn't have two-factor auth on. So because he didn't have that on, the entire onus of everything that happened was on us for not making that a priority, making that security a priority. And so I'm sort of looking at this as a way of like, well, we default you to TUFA. We told you need to do that to be safe. So that's your bad, user.
It is kind of interesting, though, because haven't we seen, and especially in like the smart home space, like I remember when products would show up on your door and there'd be like a simple, basic, universal password, and it was on you to use a stricter password. And then like routers started showing up where it's like, we're going to give you a garbled string of letters and numbers and characters because assuming you're going to change the password is apparently a bridge too far. And now I kind of feel the same way about two-factor, where it's like, you should be using you know what? We're just going to turn it on. We're just going to activate it for you. We know that you should do it on your own, but too many people aren't.
It's my fault. It's because I complained out loud on Twitter. Like a bunch of people got roped into like helping me out. Like Google PR got involved. I felt really bad at the end of it because I'm like, this whole thing could have been avoided if we would have just listened to the email telling us to turn on two-factor authorization on the Nest account. So
look what you did.
if I did this. This is all because of me.
If Woody had just gotten to the police, this would never have happened. So
I'm tweeting Shannon Morse right now. You're going to get a tweet from @Snubs, just giving you another little finger wagging.
So don't get defaulted. Get two-factor loaded in and put in there. And just the Burke POV on this from our secret behind-the-scenes show chat room is that you are screwed if you lose your phone. But I feel like that's an important note because you're screwed if you lose your phone, like without TUFA, like just in general, like these devices
your Bitcoin,
have become
wallet.
Right. Yeah. My Doge. These devices have become so intrinsic to our day-to-day operation where, like they're becoming more and more tied to your identity and your connection to your digital world, whether it's through wallet use or two-factor authentication unlocking or whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, like the feeling that you're screwed if you lose your phone is like a big one now, or God forbid you can't afford a phone. That's the other thing too. Or like you can't, like you're not as lucky as we are where we have these extra phones and all this sort of stuff. And there are a lot of people that are still using flip phones. I saw somebody the other day with a flip phone, like with and like a feature phone, not a smartphone. So, and there are backup ways to do it. Talking in the chat room now, Scooter X is saying set a recovery email, and Google does have this set up. You can, it's not wholly dependent on the phone, but it is an important note. A lot of, again, awareness. Not a lot of people will realize that. So
I was just thinking, Ron, like, what would my solution be? And I just realized, like, it's because I have the luxury of having extra gadgets around.
Yeah, exactly.
Like my two-factor authentication will go to my smartwatch and to my tablet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot of gear, and that's not cheap. And there's absolutely, to your point, someone out there just shopping an MVNO to get some kind of budget communicator. That's a lot of pressure to put on an inexpensive phone if you're really running your life through your phone these days.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, be careful out there, everyone. Be safe. Flo, I'm excited about this next story, Flo. So impress me.
Hey, you know what? This is a really exciting story. I'm excited for us to get into it. So last week, there was actually a pretty big announcement that didn't seem so big, at first glance. At first, it was like, oh, hey, Google is, introducing this new tablet interface. It's called Entertainment Space. It kind of plays off the idea of the Kid Space, which was launched last year to put kid content, front and center for kids to kind of get into. This one is the same idea, except that it puts movies, shows, games, books, anything that you can get in the Play Store on this nice sort of carousel-y interface that looks very, very familiar if you have a Chromecast or Google TV currently plugged into a TV at your house, which I have 3 of. And of course, I want to appreciate Jason just first of all for linking my hard work on our
good job. Bravo.
On our podcast. Thank you. So now here's the thing about Entertainment Space is that it's not coming to all Android tablets at first. It's actually going to come to Walmart's select line of On tablets. That's their in-house brand. Yes.
Yes.
And you might have remembered that Jason's covered this tablet before. He's reviewed it for us, and so have many others. And the consensus is usually this is a $65 tablet, and this is what you're going to get. Imagine, however, all those $65 tablets turning into teeny tiny mini Google TVs on the go. All right. Got your Wonder Woman 1984 quick access right there on HBO. You've got that latest graphic novel that you've been chewing into through Google Play Books. You don't even need to buy it through Google Play. I think they still let you upload your own PDFs. So
yep, they do.
Put your library in there. This is an absolute play, in my mind, for Amazon's Fire tablets. 100%. And I want to hear what you guys think.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I've been so excited to see Google managing some of these transitions. Same. I chuckled when you said how many Chromecasts you have, because we just got a second one because we're completely giving up on smart TV interfaces. I'm never going to buy super.
Yeah, the ship sailed on that years ago. I've said it many times on the show, but I go back to 2008 when Patrick Norton gave me the advice that just buy a monitor and hook things into it. Do not depend on the software on the TV because you'll be beholden to updates that never happen. I didn't listen to him. A couple of years ago, I bought a Vizio 32-inch with Chromecast in it, and they never updated it. They never upgraded it.
You know what?
Never did.
Ron, you don't want them to. I'm on that really. I think it was maybe it wasn't the last time I was on. Maybe it was the time before. But my Samsung QLED has been getting updates very, very well. And those updates seem to deliver more and more intrusive ads. So on my really expensive premium Samsung TV, we use a Chromecast to separate as much as we can from whatever software and services were on that Samsung. So sorry, that was a big detour there. Because I feel in this age where we've been getting away from Play, we dropped Play Music, we have YouTube Music now. What I've been wanting to see Google do is try to kind of hone back in on a more unified structure. And now when we see the YouTube, what is it? The YouTube service on Roku is getting a refresh. So it's a little bit more. Right. So now this is Google actually leveraging their ecosystem. I mean, we kind of forget Google has one of those. Yep. And it's such a joy looking at like, hey, a budget tablet to a Chromecast is going to be much more familiar. You know where things are going to be. You know how to search for content. You know where your catalog of stuff is. This is such a good play from Google to align all of these services.
I'll counter that argument.
Have
you ever actually used an on tab?
Oh, no, because we know it's not going to stop there. But it's like when I see like this software platform on a phone, when I see it on a tab, a Galaxy tab, hopefully eventually it'll make it to like desktop modes on phones. This is the interface I want to see when I'm looking at organizing my media. So obviously like this Walmart's on tablets. I'm not going to be super excited about the on tablet, but from there, I like this can't come fast enough. I want to see all of their services.
The whole approach, seeing this on a nice Samsung or Lenovo tablet, like that's the play. Like that's what we want to see. Whether or not those manufacturers will do it or not. Like the thing is that is looking for something like this to bring a big name like Google to people into Walmart. Let's think about who the customer base is. It's a budget affordable customer who probably can't afford and wouldn't even look for a Samsung tablet. And so the idea is that the price point is low enough. And Flo, back to your point, the Amazon Fire tablets, the price points are low enough. It's a direct. It's not only in use of the infrastructure, but also the price point of the on tablet and the audience that it brings. And then if we see it come as an option, if they do like maybe Google I/O is next week, everybody, and we're going to see significant product announcements. Are we going to see a Google, it's been a while since Google's put out a tablet. I remember loving my Google tablets, right? Nexus 7 still probably should be in the All About Android Hall of Fame. That was a great tablet. If they bring it,
was years ago.
It was years ago. But if Google brings out the higher profile, more expensive tablet for the likes of folks who don't shop at Walmart, like myself included, then you've got both sides covered there, and it goes back to Juan's point about it being a great play. So we'll see how this is like moving the pawn on the chessboard up 2 spots, right? Let's this is the first move. Let's see what the Chromecast was the first move. Google TV was the second move. This is like the third move. Let's see how this chess game plays out. So
all that content. Ooh, speaking of content, Ron, you want to take us into our first break?
Yeah, let's take a pause and thank our first sponsor of this episode of All About Android. It's brought to you by Manscaped, our go-to for men's below-the-waist grooming products. And hey, everybody, new product alert from the folks at Manscaped. It's time to stop, drop, and order this brand new shaving kit that just launched. Introducing the Ultra Smooth Package, a specialized groin shaving kit to help you buff, protect, and smooth your most sensitive areas. I'm talking about their new crop shaver, crop exfoliator, and crop gel. It's time to crop your intimate area and get right to the roots with a discount just for you. You can get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/twit. And listen, this is from the legends who introduced the electric ball hair trimmer. We now have the razor and set to get you trimmed front to back. And listen, guys, you no longer have to borrow your lady's razor for that precise trim. And listen, say what you will about where you're shaving or what you're doing, what area, what part of your body, how you want to live your life. No judgment here. But if you're looking to live a trimmed life, Manscaped is definitely the folks that you want to look into, because they're thinking about it. They're thinking about how to make great products that protect you from ingrown hairs, cuts, makes it easy for those hard to reach places. And I'll be honest, I'm getting older. Hair grows in lots of weird places. It's not just down there, right? So you got to look out for those things, and Manscaped is looking out for you. So the Manscaped Ultra Smooth Package is a 3-step kit to make your package the perfect package. Step 1 is the crop exfoliator, infused with ingredients that can soothe, clear, and keep the skin on and around your groin feeling refreshed. The crop exfoliator can help reduce the risk of ingrown hairs in your delicate places. Step 2 is crop gel. See where you're shaving with our unique clear shaving gel just for the groin. With 4 essential oils, it's like a spa treatment every time you shave. And who wouldn't like a spa treatment every time you shave? Step 3, now it's time to shave. So you got to use that crop shaver, and it was designed for shaving the groin area with confidence. 3 precision blades include extra wide lubricating strips and pivoting head for the ultimate groin grooming experience. And listen, this crop shaver is not your average razor. It's smaller, thicker, with a micro comb bar that allows for the best shave possible from any angle. And best of all 3 of these are vegan, cruelty-free, and sulfate-free products, and they're included so you know that your manhood is in good hands. It's time to get up close and personal with the best tools for the job, the Ultra Smooth package from Manscaped. So what you're going to do is you're going to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/twit. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com/twit. It's time to smooth it out, fellas, with Manscaped. Your intimate areas will thank you. Thank you, Manscaped. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ron.
With all that scintillating, exfoliating talk, it's time for hardware. Well, now that I'm trimmed, I will tell you, I cannot, Juan, this might be new to you. I cannot stop talking about Ananana. I love Ananana at Walmart. And I'll give Walmart credit with the Ananana line of products is that they are watching what's going on in the world and they're trying to play the best they can. So much so that they have a new dongle running Android TV that you can get at Walmart. That's pretty cool.
Super cheap.
It's a pretty basic package. It's an HDMI cable powered by micro USB. It supports 4K video, includes a remote that follows Google's reference design for Android TV remotes. And yes, it actually has buttons for Netflix, YouTube, Disney Plus, and HBO Max. And you can get this. And Flo, are you sitting down? I want to make sure you're sitting down. Okay.
I mean, yes.
$29.88. So for less than $30, for less than $29.99, somebody could get a Android TV dongle plugged into their TV. I also think this is a huge move. And it's also really, I mean, I'll give Walmart credit. They see Chromecast, they see Roku, they see all this sort of stuff. They're selling in their stores saying, why can't we get in on this? I mean,
they see Amazon. They see Amazon Fire HD.
Yeah, they see Amazon. And without having to reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Google can push the content because Google already has all of, their little hands into every little content pot. So you can get every app on there that you need. And you just buy it through Walmart's house brand.
Yeah.
And also when we're talking streaming sticks, I mean, we're Chromecast is around $50. This is going to be about $30. Are there concerns? Are there issues? I mean, is there anyone out there going like, well, I've measured the Wi-Fi performance of this streaming stick? This is such an easy, tangible, and accessible way to separate yourself from how terrible TV interfaces have become. Yeah. Well, so we don't know yet. We don't know because I don't know if it's for sale yet or actually available right now. If you go on the Walmart site, it says the item is unavailable or on back order. So we haven't had anybody get their hands on it and actually see what happens with it. But hopefully there's not a problem. I mean, the Ananana tablets weren't the best, and this is clearly going to be on the cheaper side. So maybe there's some limitation, but maybe not, so.
I was going to say, and I apologize with the Skype, you know how it is when we're all jumping in, but you know what? This is a very entry level way to get TV. Think about it. $30 for this dongle. Plug it into your $100 TV that you got at Walmart probably too. Maybe you got an LG or a Samsung that they had on sale. You can go home, install Pluto TV, which is free. You can install any of the other. I think Samsung has a free TV app now. I don't know if it's available on Android, but there's so many different ones that you can do without paying. Again, super easy way to get content, and it is smart for Walmart. To try and get a piece of this puzzle without reinventing the wheel themselves, because clearly tech is not their thing. Just selling it is.
Yeah. Well, the media licensing thing is super tricky. I mean, we're watching a bunch of carriers, cell phone carriers like T-Mobile just recently killed T-Vision. Media licensing is hard. So if Walmart can make a play and be like, offer a solution where they're the front end, and like you're saying, Google will go do all that other heavy lifting in the background. Exactly. We just want you to buy this box. And it's going to be so much
good strategy.
easier.
It's a good strategy. So
it's a very good strategy.
Yep.
Buy this box and rent our movies. All right. So speaking of watching movies, here is a very, very exciting, I guess it would be a tease, although since this news story came out last week, there's been a confirmation that there's going to be an event centered around this thing. So last week, Lenovo teased a tablet with an HDMI input port. This started cropping up on a Chinese social media site Weibo. They were posting some teasers, and I looked at some of the individual little flyers that they put out for this. I translated it with Google Translate on my phone. Thank you. God bless that was available. Because on it, I got to see that they were specifically referencing the different things that you could do with this Lenovo tablet. One of the images that's really circulated is the one of a docked Nintendo Switch. So it's in the dock that it comes with in the box when you pay full price for the regular Switch. And then it has a cable going from it straight into the tablet. Now, the Lenovo Yoga tablets are also known for having very cool kickstands, which is kind of like become their thing. This one has a kickstand that, as I looked into some of the other social media posts, show it like hanging from a rack in the kitchen. So Lenovo has a bunch of, this sounds like a very legit Android tablet, although nobody is quite sure if it's running Android just yet, just that it's something that might exist. And so it just created this idea in the ecosystem about what Android tablets might look like, what other rumors could be around this. Probably not going to see this coming to the US. Jason, in our notes for today's show, reminded me that the Sony Xperia Pro, that's a $2,500 smartphone with HDMI input, completely forgot that existed. Juan, I want to ask you, dude, is there a market for these things? Or are we just looking at Android tablets becoming this like niche that people are choosing over what maybe the iPad doesn't offer? I know those are kind of two different things, but
yeah, but for sure. But if it's not, I hope it's a niche that grows. And this is something that I've been kind of like smashing my face into my keyboard for years now. Lenovo used to offer an all-in-one. It was like their iMac competitor, and it had an HDMI input. It's one of the few like desktop PCs that I've ever played with that. And it was such an amazing consideration for like dorm room life. Like you don't need to have a computer and a TV. You just plug your console directly into this all-in-one. And then when you shut down your computer, you can just turn on the monitor, and it's so seamless. It works so well. And I've been playing with all of these like portable monitors, the WiMaxits and Lapals and the laptop docks like NextDock and UPerfect, ways that we can kind of expand on this. And I'm so glad that you brought up the Xperia Pro. You can also get like a USB capture card and hook that up to an Xperia One Mark II and stream content directly that way. So there's so much functionality and there's so much potential. Really what we lack are some of the apps and services to really take advantage of it. But something like a Switch is like a no-brainer. Like you've got this one screen. Why not be able to do more things with it? And we see like, people will take their iPads and load up an app and try and use it as an external monitor for their MacBooks. This is well-worn territory. This is tried and true. We know people want to be able to kind of move these things around a bit more and get more use out of them, more functionality out of them. So this is one I'm giddily excited. I was so happy to see this story on the show notes this week because I want folks to get more flexibility, more use. Hook it up to a laptop and you already have like a second display ready to go. Hook it up to a phone and use a desktop mode. Maybe your phone is more powerful than this tablet. I mean, there are so many crossover uses. So immediately you hook it up to a camera and you've got a portable display for photo shoots, so that you're not looking at a little camera screen. I want people to find these things, and I want them to get really lit up about this kind of stuff.
But
it is neat. It is neat to have that flexibility and to be able to, I agree with you. I think having the ability to plug it in and define your use of it is great because I know a lot of people have struggled with a tablet in terms of what the use case is and what do I do with it? Do I watch media on it? Do I read stuff on it? Do I play games or whatever? Right. But like at the end of the day, it's a display. Like I'm surprised again. It's 2021 and this is just happening now. You know. So Flo, I'm sorry, you're gonna say.
Well, I was going to ask if this is any more of a solution versus, say, doing like a USB-C adapter of sorts to kind of enable this, because I'm thinking about it from the Apple perspective for people who would choose an iPad and the way that they maybe might choose that because you could maybe use the iPad as a second display with a Mac and that kind of thing. So I guess I'm just trying to connect like how much more sophisticated is this over what some other
that's definitely a fair concern too, because, you know, for example, Android in the core like Android stack for USB support, there is support for USB capture cards and displays, but there's no front end. There's no software to take advantage of that. So there's definitely, you know, room for this to be hardware in search of a problem that's more difficult for consumers to really use. We really want to see what the implementation is. But I especially for how well it worked years ago. I want to say it was like 6, maybe 7 years ago that I reviewed that Lenovo, and I was just so taken with this idea. And like Ron was saying, like it's current year. Why don't we have this on more products? I think it's an opportunity because also, you know, when you compare it against something like an iPad, there's a consumer understanding of iPad as a premium tier device, a more powerful device. Yep. Lenovo tablets, I seriously doubt this is going to have a current top-of-the-line 800 series chipset. It's probably not going to be positioned as a powerhouse product against an iPad or an iPad Pro.
That's what I sort of translated and what I read on some blogs that it translated it. That's just a rumor. Again, we're not going to know till like May 24th if there even is. And they'll, it's so light on specs, but I think the idea of it just got a lot of people excited, especially after that entertainment space news, because we're all trying to wonder like what's going on with Android tablets. There's one session about different screen sizes at Google I/O, and so it's just like, you know, it's the conversation, man. It's happening, man. Get in with the game, man.
And literally this one image of a tablet connected to a Nintendo Switch. This is so easy to communicate.
Though. Yeah. True. One image of the Switch.
Yep.
One picture right there. And you don't need to spell out to someone like why you might want to do this, because maybe you want a podcast and you're going to stream on StreamYard if you use this adapter and plug in this case. No, like one picture just told this whole story for anyone who might be considering it. Oh, you know what? I do want a tablet that could be like a portable display for my laptop. Okay. So cake. I mean, it's so simple, and like my Aunt Brie, she's a teacher, and she does a lot of work on Chromebooks, and she also has a Windows laptop, and she's got a little USB-C portable monitor. She wants to go dual display. I mean, those things are like, there's so many practical benefits to that, and it's really easy to show. You don't have to explain a whole lot. You plug in a cable, and then suddenly your thing that did this one thing is doing something else, and you just got more bang for your buck, and that's cool. I really like that.
That's right.
Yep. So moving on, Juan, one of the things on the show recently we've been talking about has been just kind of the phones that exist on the sides of like there's the main flagships and phones we use and things like that. And we've dabbled with the rugged phones, the phones that can drive a truck over them, stuff like that. Another area though is the elusive gaming phone.
Elusive gaming phone. Well,
so I'm glad you brought that up. You have a gaming phone that you can share
right over here. There was a beautiful segue. Is that I've been playing with the Black Shark 4, which happens to be one of those gaming phones that you were alluding to. It's not quite so elusive. This is $499 for a 144 hertz display, as I almost drop it. Super ridiculously fast charging. So it's doing that split battery cell trick where you can juice this 120 watt charger. Yikes. I saw it on the notes that, you know, you guys wanted me to talk about it. I picked up the phone. It was totally dead. The first 10 minutes of this live stream, I plugged it in, and it's now at 60%. It's just ridiculously fast. It's scary because it actually does run a little uncomfortably warm when you charge anything that fast. I mean, they're mitigating this as best they can, but it is kind of interesting. I've been playing this with this for a little while, and Xiaomi has like a whole army of different phone lines: Mi 11, the Pocos, the Redmis, and Black Shark is the gaming brand, and there's a lot of Venn diagram overlap. So I've gotten comments on my video like, well, I've got a Poco F3 and it's got the same chipset. It's got the Snapdragon 870. So we're not dealing with some of those thermal throttling or inconsistent performance issues that we see on the Snapdragon 888. I think that's a solid buy, especially when we can get it at this price point. But then there's another phone that's nearly identical. You know, you can get 120 hertz on mid-ranger phones. You can get big batteries on mid-ranger phones. You can get fast charging on mid-ranger phones. And so for gaming phones, I feel like we're going to see that harder split on individual game playing specific kinds of hardware and features. And on the Black Shark, it's one really fun mechanical. Here, I'm going to get the phone right in front of my microphone so I can really get some ASMR action for you guys. But you know, gaming phones are now starting to add things like shoulder triggers, and sometimes they're just like touch sensitive strips. But on the Black Shark, it's an actual little magnetic shoulder trigger that pops up with this cute little.
That's satisfying.
Those are some great sounds, by the way. Yeah, those are, yeah.
Again, it's a piece of tactile hardware, and so a Poco F3 plays games great, but there are a lot of games that I don't like to play on phones, like first and third person shooter style games. You can't look and move and shoot all at the same time like you can on a controller, but when you start mapping screen controls to these little triggers up here on the sides, it really does enable a better tier of gameplay. I know a lot of people out there are going to be like, oh, but I hate using touchscreens. And to those people, I would say get good. If you just get good, then you don't have that problem. I've been finishing games left and right. Like I've been playing Dead Cells like crazy on my phone. The performance really is now starting to take kind of a back seat. We want to look at faster charging. We want to look at better power management. We want to look at controls that enable better gameplay. We want to find a good price performance balance. You know, there's going to be a Black Shark 4 Pro that uses the 888. Depending on the games that you play, I don't know that chipset really will deliver, you know, better performance. We're in kind of a weird place right now where from the 865 to this 870 to the 888, you can't across the board predict what game is going to play better on which SoC. So Black Shark at $499 is also coming in at a price where you even have a harder time comparing against last year's flagship phones. So we really do. You get to kind of drill down into what individual hardware features make gameplay more fun. And, you know, you're not going to find those on a Galaxy S20. You're not going to find those on last year's LG. You're not going to find those on just sort of more mainstream offerings. If you don't want to have to walk around with an extra controller or clamps your phone into a dock or something that enables better gameplay, these types of gaming phones are going to be the way to go. And you get to make that choice where if the games that you like to play are on Android, then it might not make sense to have an entry-level phone and a Nintendo Switch when $499 might be able to get that job done for you in one product.
I will just want to say that I just switched from the OnePlus 8 to the Pixel 5 related to your review, I swear. Oh my God. The disparity in RAM between the two devices, that becomes so obvious when I'm trying to like play Pokemon Go and do other stuff. So I really believe in the idea of like the gaming phone a lot more now than I did before I had this experience with the OnePlus, just because that phone has like all this, you know, gaming tuning. And so when you're saying it's like $500 for a phone that can do that kind of gaming, that's pretty impressive. That's how much, you know, the Pixel 5 will, well, that's how much a Pixel 3 is. Or a
Yeah, it's cheaper than a Pixel 5, and it's a tangibly more powerful phone. The tricky thing is you kind of want to find people that are playing the games that you like to play. So I was a little disappointed. I fired this up and I'm playing Dead Cells, and it's capped at 90 frames per second. And that's a game that can hit 90 frames per second on a Pixel 5. So it's not universal. It really is frustrating where we're at from, on the Apple side going to the A14, and on the Android side going to the A88. And this is a refresh. The 870 is like an 865 plus. It's not a perfect generational improvement. Some games respond to this and are optimized for it, and just it blows you away. Like some of my older racing games at like 140 hertz just look gorgeous. And then some of these more graphics, I like Pascal's Wager. It's sort of a Dark Souls clone. And you're like, yeah, it kind of hits that 60 frame per second limit, but a couple phones from last year had no issues matching that kind of performance. And then some of my more arcadey games, the frame rate would just plummet. And it's not on Black Shark. It's not completely on Qualcomm. It's not completely on app developers. It's sort of everyone looking at what the next generation of optimization for performance should look like. And we kind of need to nudge it. We kind of need to push it along so that we can really get there.
Oh man.
It's so funny stuff. Because it's like when I think about gaming and phone, like mobile gaming, right? That brings a certain mindset and a certain kind of what mobile games are and what they become. But these gaming phones are really, they're formidable, right? They actually can. Yeah. You can have a gaming experience on a phone, which, as an old school PC gamer, I have a hard time distilling down to just the 6 inches of the phone device.
Sure. But think about like where we're at with things like a Nintendo Switch. Our phones are probably more powerful, have nicer screens, faster refresh rate displays. Ron, I'm sure you'll be very excited to know that the Black Shark at $499 has a decent headphone jack for all of your cabled audio needs. So, you don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to slum it with some terrible Bluetooth options. All in love. But no, it's funny because we've got this perception of mobile gaming as if we never left Fruit Ninja and Candy Crush. But yeah, like the PC ports that we're getting, the console ports that we're getting, I've got a whole catalog of developers that are looking at like the last phase of their game's life is to get it on Android. It made it to Steam and it got its sales there. It made it to the Switch. It got its sales there. And yeah, you have to play these games a little later, but like you'll get them at a significant cost savings. And then they end up on Android. And some developers do it really, really well. I'm playing Unruly Heroes. I'm playing Dead Cells. I'm trying to struggle to come up with this. I've got this silly catalog of games on Android that I really like to play now. And it's a legit competitor. It's just finding those opportunities to kind of showcase what mobile gaming can be. And then this is exactly the kind of hardware that if you're into Stadia, if you're into NVIDIA's game streaming solutions, if you're into Game Pass, the hardware is good. It's the right way to kind of consume that content, especially if you've got a fast data connection. So gaming phones are a niche. They're a very specialized niche. But they're also some of the most feature complete phones that we can look at. Big batteries, fast charging, big bright screens, headphone jacks, those features that you might be sad to lose, you're going to find on a gaming phone. Optimized for that gaming experience, which is high specs, high end. You wanted performance. Yeah, and the thing is, and tell me if I'm wrong, Juan, but I would assume gaming phones are also great media phones because they can handle that processing. They have that display. They have the sound, right? So they do serve like a dual purpose also, if you want to go that route. Oh, yeah. All about content consumption. It's funny, like, I'm playing with the Black Shark. It's got all this horsepower. It's got all this media savvy. I can plug in my headphones again. I just get excited about that. Maybe not a great pick for content creation. It's like we've got these little categories of devices. Like, if I want to shoot something, I'm going to pick up a Sony. If I'm going to consume something, I'm probably going to lean towards a gaming phone. We still don't have this like unicorn device that can like handle everything. Yeah. But the categories are I feel are very clear, and the benefits are very tangible. Like you were saying, like, what's going to improve gaming is also going to be awesome for watching a movie. I know some people bristle at like the cinema experience that you're gonna, destroy by looking at a little phone screen, but nah, it's a really good display. Like that might be one of the better displays in your home is just little. It just happens to be on your phone.
Yeah. And imagine playing older games on that too. Like people do not appreciate the Android phone as a, especially now because they've been porting over some of our favorite titles to the Play Store. But I'm also just talking about like emulators, which I know is like a taboo thing, but just let me mention it for the sake of this. Juan, we actually had a couple of questions from the chat. If you had a quick second about this phone,
I've got all the time you need.
I know, right? Anyway, I was going to ask you. Folks want to know about NFC, wireless charging, IP rating.
No,
I'm assuming.
No, I mean again,
because that's not the focus.
You want to pick the pros and cons that make the most sense for you. So when you've got things like actual hardware things that pop out of a phone, if it's a hinge, if it's a swivel, if it's these switches, like the Red Magic has an active cooling fan. There is active cooling inside that phone. You're picking a product based on your core use. And then that's just got to guide your behavior in using that product. So there are always going to be compromises to get that. If you really are going to be into some type of mobile gaming lifestyle, you want those triggers. That's the compromise you need to make to get those triggers. And like I was saying, it's the same thing. Like the cameras are good. They're good cameras. I would not buy this phone and then get real cranky that you somehow don't have class leading best of the year cameras. But with a little practice, I really wasn't hamstrung much for photos, and the video was pretty decent. I mean, some of the content that I was able to get out of it was fine. It's just not going to top my list for the best cameras of the year. So it's those. You really got to find those balances. And I find that spending $499 on the Focus still makes a lot of sense. It's not an all-rounder device. It's not trying to do everything generally good. You're putting $499 towards very specific ideas of usage, a very specific kind of consumer who cares about this kind of stuff. And they're going to be the type of people who are going to be roughly okay making a few compromises in other areas.
And lastly, do we know what this manufacturer's like about Android updates?
That's another one that's a little bit tricky. Software on a Xiaomi is always an interesting conversation. I am way less familiar with Xiaomi overall as a brand. So I'm only really getting caught up this year. Like I got the Mi 11 Lite, and this is like the first Xiaomi I've played with in like 3 years. And so I would have very low expectations on this quantity of hardware at this price, and then getting every single monthly security patch, operating system update the month it comes out. I just don't reconcile those two together. There's a hardware versus software kind of conversation happening. Some of my friends have said like recently on Black Shark 3 that they've gotten some software polish and that's helped improve it. Other gaming phones have been kind of stepping up their game, but long-term software support is a feature that also comes with a price tag. And the lower we cut that price tag, I mean, you think about it, this is really close in price to like a Pixel 4a. There's so much more hardware
That's
here.
what I meant to say, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a Pixel 4a, we have very high expectations on software. There's way less hardware there than what you're going to get on something like this. So, again, I feel like this is the consumer who you've got to balance. You've got to be able to kind of pick and choose and fight certain battles and know what kind of experience you're in for. The thing that's been a little bit of a culture shock for me is from the Mi 11 to this Black Shark. I am just very unfamiliar with Xiaomi's software strategy. So from their skin on top of the OS, the way that they have a number of services that are sort of Xiaomi specific, how the phone can kind of push you into getting ads served. That's a major part of Xiaomi's business model. And then little things too, like the calculator app asks for a lot of permissions, and I'm not sure why it's asking for these permissions. It's a calculator. It shouldn't be able to talk to anything else on my phone. That, I think, just is someone who's really familiar with the brand probably knows how to navigate all that stuff and end up on a totally clean phone on the other side. That's something I'm just getting back up to speed on.
Woof.
Woof indeed.
Woof.
It's a lot. All I gotta say is that literally, like, this conversation and this sort of stuff makes me feel very old, because literally this morning while I was getting ready for work and everything, I was daydreaming about like missing the LucasArts games of the 90s and like the great kind of like very simple adventure games, which you just can't get anymore. And it's a very different direction than the kind of games that you're playing on this device. So,
but you can find little glimpses of it. Like, I've been playing Titan Quest again. It's this little like top-down dungeon looter. It's kind of a Diablo style game, and you're like, there's just so much joy. You find something like that. I just can't find the joy like I got from like the Sierra adventure games and like all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Like they just, and I've tried to play, like, I know what was it, Thistlewood Park or whatever it was. It was a very LucasArts style kind of game, and I just never really got, it didn't click the way those other games did. And I don't play as much shooters, and I don't play as much kind of action games, but I also don't have time. I don't know, it's fine. It's cool. Well, but that's what's kind of cool about a gaming phone, though. It's why I've been getting into Dead Cells as a very sort of like a linear live die repeat kind of a game. I've got a couple minutes in between, like I'm sitting in the line waiting to pick up my daughter from school. I can jam 5 minutes on a Dead Cells map, and that might be my gaming for the day, but I had it there, and I had it then. I was able to play it the way that I wanted to. But like you, man, I would pay such good money if someone would round up like an entire collection of all the King's Quest and Space Quest games and put them on the phone.
Love them so much.
Buy it
so good.
Like that.
It was Thimbleweed Park. That's what I played. They came out in 2017. It wasn't quite the same though, but still, like the old Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, the Monkey Island games. Oh man.
What you might dig? Have you played? Is it Donut County or Donut Country? It's just a really weird, trippy
Donut County. It's called Donut County. Yeah,
Donut
County.
New
game about a mysterious hole in the ground.
Yes. Have you played Donut County?
I have not. I should check it out.
That might be your speed, because it's got a very weirdly existential vibe to it with a very simple gameplay mechanic that I was really tickled by that one. I was really charmed by it.
I'm going to check that out. It's available on Google Play. So I will definitely check that out. Burke here is I'm throwing it into our chat so you can show everybody. But Donut County,
that's going to be my app for the arena, right?
If we had the arena, that would have been. How would Donut County play on the Black Shark 4? Would it just sing?
I love recommending it because this is one that's like it plays well on mid-rangers. You don't need all the gaming hardware. This is a different kind of narrative style of gameplay. Yeah. That's why I recommended it. But I mean, again, it's gaming phones are starting to, for me, in my opinion, they're starting to fill that niche of like gaming laptops where you can't afford a full-on mobile workstation kind of laptop. You can make a few small concessions, you can make a few small compromises and end up with a very streamlined, powerful, and focused pocket computer. I'm really liking where Asus, where Red Magic, where Black Shark, where these companies are going with gamer focus.
Thank you, Juan, for that overview of the Black Shark 4. And with that, we're going to take a break and thank our next sponsor of All About Android, because this episode of All About Android was brought to you by Audible. And listen, have you ever wanted to read a memoir but just didn't have the time? Or maybe you found a title that you couldn't put down, but you also need to fold the laundry? Well, now you can do both because Audible makes it possible. Whether you're driving, cooking, cleaning your house, or just relaxing, you can listen to amazing audio files with Audible. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment all in one place. At Audible, you can find the largest selection of audiobooks ranging from bestsellers and new releases to celebrity memoirs, languages, business, motivation, and more. You can get original entertainment from top celebrity creators and thousands of popular and binge-worthy podcasts. They are now offering their newest plan, Audible Plus. Audible Plus gives you full access to their popular Plus catalog. Audible Plus is all about giving members a chance to listen to and discover new favorites and explore different formats like the exclusive Words and Music series or podcasts you never considered before, even theatrical performances. It's very cool. You can listen all you want to thousands and thousands of popular audiobooks, original entertainment, and podcasts, including ad-free versions of your favorite shows and exclusive series. They're all available to download or stream, so you can listen anywhere, anytime on your device, and you'll never lose your spot. To use your Audible membership, you'll need to download the Audible app, and the Audible app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. And the Audible app on Android is delightful. I will say that I am a longtime Audible customer and user, and I'm going to make you a great recommendation for an audiobook that I have been enjoying recently. It is called The Big Goodbye by Sam Wasson. What it is, it's an audiobook about the movie Chinatown and the kind of end of the glory years of Hollywood. You know, as movies changed in the 70s, Chinatown really reflected both in the story itself, but also in how the movie was made. And it's just fantastic. I can't stop listening. It's a great audiobook. But yeah, love sort of stuff like this. And what's great about this one is that it's narrated by the author, Sam Wasson. So you get that authentic view, and Audible does such a great job with getting so many great, either, you know, getting the authors to read their works or to have other amazing voices reading those and making that audiobook experience so pleasurable. So I would strongly recommend The Big Goodbye or any audiobook on Audible, because when you listen to Audible, you feel inspired, connected, and it's all available in their all-in-one app. Audible Plus is your playlist for life. So what are you waiting for? Delve into your next title on Audible with Audible Plus. New members can try Audible Plus for 30 days. Download the Audible app and get started with a free trial at audible.com/allaboutandroid or text allaboutandroid to 500-500. That's audible.com/allaboutandroid or text allaboutandroid to 500-500 to start your free trial today. And thanks, Audible, for being so fantastic and giving us a lot of entertainment and wonderful audio enjoyment. So thanks, Audible. And with that, we're going to move into apps. All right.
The most exclusive.
Yeah. Is it exclusive? So you've probably tired of hearing about it, but the app Clubhouse, that is, yes. Everybody's all into conversational audio. Clubhouse is finally available for Android. It's finally up on the Google Play Store. It's still invite only at the moment, which, say what you will about that approach, I feel like it's pretty tired in 2010 or 2021. Sorry, 2010. Jesus, 2021. It launched on iOS almost a year ago. They've got over 13 million users as of late March. 9.6 million people downloaded in February. Only 2.7 million in March, 900,000 in April. So it's been dropping every month. And this, Clubhouse really took off in and around the pandemic, and it's been very, of the moment, kind of conversational audio. You can listen to people having conversations. You get invited. You can join in. It's pretty neat. Except that as it grows and as it scales, they're running into real massive troll problems and community safety and all that sort of stuff, which is the same thing any app runs into when they're growing. But I don't know. Juan, are you on the Clubhouse hype train, or how do you feel about it?
Oh, so I got an invite when it launched, and I spent some time noodling around on it. And very, very early on, I had a couple great hangouts, like just brilliant, like sitting around, and I was in a cinema room, people talking about like film history, and it was like I was listening to and then getting to participate in the best podcast I'd ever heard on like cinema history. And it didn't take long before there was like this critical mass of Clubhouse content that like I could never replicate that. I could never get back to it. And so sort of building Clubhouse on exclusivity and hype and FOMO and this like promise of getting to access famous people, I feel is kind of run its course on a business model that is eminently replicatable. I mean, look at how quickly this style of content delivery. So I find that there's huge promise I don't know if anyone's really going to nail it, but I feel like the town hall open discussion platform. I'm an audio nerd. I come out of voiceover. Hearing human voices and interacting with people is just my joy. So I love to see that this idea is spreading. I'll be curious to see if Clubhouse can carve out a niche where they can be the TikTok of this content. I don't know that people are just going to jump on Facebook. They're just going to jump on Instagram. They're just going to jump on Twitter. There's all of this like conflict and divisiveness through social media. There is an opportunity for Clubhouse to kind of slide in and say, hey, we're the standalone platform that gives you this content, but they've got to clean up all of that other stuff on the back end. They've got to make this experience safer. They've got to give us better tools. Their search is miserable. Like if I want to find a Clubhouse, it's still easier for me to find it on Twitter. Like I'll search hashtag Clubhouse and then go to Clubhouse because their own internal discovery is garbage. Those are some. I'm not trying to minimize it. Those are some sizable hurdles to overcome. But they at least had some momentum, and they've got a core user base that's very passionate about being on Clubhouse. So now we got to see whether or not they can weather the Twitter storm of Twitter Spaces.
Right. We will see. Twitter rolling out Spaces is a big 800-pound gorilla, and I feel like conversational audio has a place, but it's not nearly the next big thing, as everyone was saying. Clubhouse was just the next exclusive thing, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see. We'll check it out. I don't know. All right, Flo, what do you got next for OnePlus?
Well, this one isn't super exclusive, which is kind of nice to hear. So OnePlus launched what is called One Lab last week. This is a startup division for experimenting. It's kind of similar to Google's Creative Lab. And so their first experiment for this OnePlus One Lab, OnePlus One Lab. I mean, you really got to lean into it when you say the name to really get the gusto in there. But so their first experiment is an app called Clipt, CLIPT. Now, this is a cross-platform clipboard sharing tool, which I'm already on board with this because I love anything with the buzzword cross-platform in it. It's just how I am. I like to be diplomatic in my tech usage. So this is going to let you clip text, images, and files, as well as store those clipboard contents into Google Drive, not into any OnePlus servers. It's also going to automatically save the last 10 files / snippets that you shared, just in case you need to go back in time a little bit. Now, this is definitely on trend with what's going on inside Android. So Android 10 has updated permissions that allows apps like this one from reading clipboard contents. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that. And as a result, sharing from phone to computer requires you, the user, to paste the text, image, or file into a notification for the app. Still some kinks to work out. I'm curious what you guys think about primarily OnePlus having sort of creative lab. It really sounds like they're trying to be more than just the underdog phone maker like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's a services market right now. And, it's always kind of the frustration, like I look at Microsoft's relationship with Samsung and how Samsung devices get these kind of special versions of desktop connection software for Windows. And you're like, I don't know that the phones are really that special. I'd really love for any phone to be able to benefit from this. But I guess it needs to be an exclusive because of partnerships. So if OnePlus is kind of looking at how do we make our products more competitive? How do we help people with workflow? How do we integrate these services? And like you were saying, there's kind of that fear. We don't want my personal data to end up on a OnePlus server. I already use a certain kind of service like Google Drive. I want to be able to keep everything under that one umbrella. It's the right play. I'm kind of curious, and especially seeing nearby share start to take off a little bit more on Android. And like I was saying, Microsoft and Windows kind of collaborating more with Android devices on moving content around. I don't know that OnePlus has the user base. I don't know that they've got the momentum. I don't know that they've got the numbers to kind of push a platform. But if it really is going to be sort of all comers, and this can be very easily integrated into a browser or into desktop software, then it's really just going to be another perk. I kind of feel like this is Google's. Ultimately, it ends up being Google's problem to solve. Like, how do you get devices talking to each other and sharing content and moving files around? But until Google solves it, there are these huge opportunities for another company to come in and kind of guide the discussion.
Yeah. Or, Google rolls in a similar product into Gboard, and then we don't have any reason to use OnePluses. I'm just saying. I see a lot of stuff going on with that copy and paste featurette in Gboard.
But it needs to be Google and Microsoft. I mean, this is like the strategic partnership that kind of needs to happen is, the number of people on Android, on Windows, Chrome OS, these different operating system platforms. And, it's why I get so excited about desktop modes on phones is like, I'm tired of like emailing myself a file that's proving difficult to make it through. I don't want to have to plug something in and then manage two different versions of, and cloud maybe doesn't work where I've not got good data, blah, 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 blah. So it's, OnePlus can kind of come in and start pointing someone in a direction, just like Microsoft has with Samsung. They're illustrating that this is a proof of concept, that this is a viable strategy for getting our devices to talk to each other. And then it needs to be Google, Apple, Microsoft sitting down in a room and hammering out something so that we can all start, getting these things to work a bit better.
Yeah. Well, that's the real hope across the board, as always, right? And we keep hoping, but who knows?
But who knows?
Exactly.
It's a big shrug until it's real. And hopefully something like this at least kind of again, it's just raising the visibility of it. I just remember we had like Tap and Share, and there were all of those different, like, what I had, like Super Beam was an app that I used to really like on my phones, so that you didn't have to like familiar.
Wasn't Bump one of Bump was one of them, and there was a whole bunch of
So if we hadn't gone through that those years of competing standards or solutions for getting two phones to send files to each other, we wouldn't have gotten AirDrop, and then that wouldn't have spurred on Nearby Share. But now, this is better. I think we're sort of about halfway through this journey, and it's going to take a while before we get sort of a unified file conversation platform, but we're getting there. And this is we're
veering towards making me rant about messaging, because if we can't get messaging right, I don't know how we're gonna get file sharing right. But but I applaud OnePlus for doing stuff like this. I think that that we're talking in the pre-show about how OnePlus is maturing and growing and changing as a company, and I think doing software is the next logical step. Like, they're building these phones and they're using Android as their base, but they're not really giving you any, kind of signature OnePlus software experiences. And if this is the beginning of it, or this is the starting point of it, it's pretty promising, I think. I don't know.
Especially for living outside their phones. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So, all right. And then last but not least, Oculus. We don't talk about Oculus that much, but Oculus is testing Android app integration in the Quest VR headset. So John Carmack, legendary games guy, and also Oculus's CTO, did mention last year that he was hoping to bring Android apps to the platform. And a YouTube user seems to have spotted several Android apps in testing on the platform in a preview app section. The user posting those apps was quote unquote Android apps for Quest. Others looked for those listings but could not find them. And it's important to note that the Oculus Quest and Quest 2 do run on Android. So is this, Flo, what do you think? Is this hope for a new home for some of those old Daydream only releases eventually, or is that too much to ask?
Yeah, I think that's about it. That's about the biggest thing that's going to come through. It's just going to allow some of that existing content. Maybe it'll be more developer friendly. I'd like to hear from any VR developers out there. That might actually be something I might consider pursuing, because I'm very curious how they feel being sort of left in the dust. It's clear what each manufacturer wants to do with virtual reality, and it's fine. But, there's still a lot of folks out there who wanted to really contribute to something and didn't really get to because of just the way that the ecosystem, I wouldn't say folded, But it definitely, only a few were able to truly carve out routes for themselves in this industry. So, which is why I have an Oculus Quest 2 myself. So, and I don't have a Daydream. I mean, I have a Daydream headset, but it's somewhere in a box in the garage. So
mine's on the bookshelf, and I don't know that I would put it on my face for how dusty it is right now.
Right. You have it in the background as part of like your set.
Right. No, it's really sad because I feel like there's this untapped conversation about VR. We think of VR and we think of those games and like putting your eyes into another character's eyes and these immersive experiences and these first person kinds of solutions. But there's also something really interesting about VR and blocking out the world around you to focus on something. Yeah. And the experiences that have consistently proven to be the best gateway drugs for VR aren't the first person gaming kinds of perspectives. It's things like Beat Saber and Tetris Effect. And I've gotten so many of my family and friends way more interested into VR on those types of games. Rescue bots, when you can kind of just block the world around you. Tetris doesn't magically get better in VR, but your focus and your flow state for Tetris, it's so much more immersive. And if we can bring some more of the mobile to that and we can kind of blur those lines, it'll be a next step for augmented reality, just getting that data on putting a computer on your face, then that's really cool. That's what I really hope to see out of this. It always makes me squirrely when it's Facebook. I just don't trust Facebook. It's my own emotional kind of attachment to that label and what they're doing with my data. And why is this hardware so cheap when it's so much more expensive to buy without a Facebook account?
It is not worth it to you, the way the because I know Google is using my images and my voice to train a computer somewhere, but the transaction, in my opinion, is better.
And you're aware of it, but we don't know what the transaction with Facebook is. But
exactly.
Well, and you saw what the Oculus for Business is, right? It's like, what is it? It's like twice as expensive, and then you also have to pay $200 a year to just own it.
Well,
that's how much Facebook assumes that the software licensing and your personal data are going to be worth on an Oculus too. It seems really scary.
You charge businesses differently than you charge regular users. I get that because they have money to burn and that sort of thing. But
I get it. But it's the same hardware, and if those costs are that different, I'm not saying there's a fire, but I'm saying where there's smoke. Sometimes.
That's fair. That's fair. That's valid. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out someday. But either way, it's interesting if we'll see Android apps on Quest. That could be fun to play with. All right. Well, let's get to wrap it up for apps. So up next, even more of your emails. All right. So our first email comes from Rupert from Nottingham, England. It's a real place, everyone. And Rupert says, I was listening to your latest episode whilst having breakfast and fighting the cat off my Marmite on toast. Okay, I let her lick the knife clean. In case you weren't proven that Rupert was British. Anyway, interesting piece from Flo on the Samsung Galaxy 8 coming to the end of the security updates, and your guest Wesley basically saying that his Pixel 2 is sufficient for his needs, but he now needs to consider whether to continue with it as is, as it will not get new security updates. Letting us know about security update support is way more important than how many stick-on cameras the newly announced phone has. Do you really want the latest fantastic values Chinese phone if you won't get security updates after more than 1 year? You never know. Calling manufacturers out on this might make other reviewers report this and lead to longer support for all of us. I'm still running a OnePlus 5. Battery life is still okay. Storage, memory, and performance are all acceptable for running the 200 plus apps I have on there. Maybe it's time for another call. But the last security update was September 20th, which came with the very welcome update to Android 10. Good customer service. So, Juan, I got to imagine you have an opinion on security updates. How do you feel about the security updates going away with the older phones?
Yeah, I feel security updates are probably more critical but less sexy than operating system updates. I'd be perfectly fine for so many of my family and friends if they never got bumped up to another Android update, but they were getting maintenance, bug fixes. Security is a moving target. It's not you're never done. You're never finished. And it's definitely one of the concerns when we look at the Android ecosystem, the mid-ranger ecosystem in Android versus, the competition versus looking at the iPhone. One of the things that I feel has been encouraging, I'm not saying, put your eggs in this basket. I'm not saying trust. I'm not saying buy things on the future promise of this. But I've been seeing a lot more traction on the Google Play Services updates. And so from Android 10 on, a little bit more, it seems like every generation, a little bit more of that responsibility is being tackled by Google. The security concerns that we're going to be seeing in the future will hopefully become more a part of the Play Services updates. It's going to be separated from, the OTAs that we get from carriers and from manufacturers. And again, it's something we should have had years ago. The right time to do this would have been 5 years ago, but the second best time to do it is now. And I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing there. It's not enough to kind of like, because there's another email, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, a little bit more too, in as this conversation kind of evolves over time also. But it's something that needs to be quantified. It needs to be a part of the cost of the phone. It's why, a Samsung A series is going to cost more than a less expensive but similarly spec'd out phone from another manufacturer, from a Chinese manufacturer. Those expectations need to come from costs and align with the budgets that we're pricing these phones out on. And then it's also just going to be in a whole nother tier of consumer conversation. I talk to my family and friends, and they don't want updates because updates always slow my phone down. And we got to get them over that hurdle, kind of the same way we were talking about two-factor authentication. It's like, I can't make you upgrade to Android, but if you've got a security patch or if you've got app updates, you have to do those.
Those app updates,
true words,
man.
True words not spoken, or true words have been spoken. I don't know. Flo.
Well,
all right, next email.
It's tough because you've got to get people
let's
to
talk
care.
about. We got more updates from our next email. This one comes from Mark, and Mark writes in: "It is with great remorse / sadness that I have gone over to the dark side. 2 reasons for this conversion / capitulation. First and foremost is the lack of Android updates.
There it is.
Samsung has announced up to 4 years of updates, but the last year's only for 1 security update. So really 3 years. And one can only assume Samsung will keep its promise. And we all know what happens when you assume something. Finally, as the primary support person for 10 iPhones, some being my own offspring, I still don't know where I went wrong. I finally gave up the fight. I will continue to be an AAA fan, but we'll start listening more closely to MacBreak Weekly and iOS Today." And that's perfectly fine, Mark, because my co-host from another podcast that I do called Material is Andy Anatko, and Andy is on MacBreak Weekly. And so I am happy that you are getting your news from my co-host on another show, just to bring it back to me.
And not to Android updates.
Sorry.
Wow. All right. So now that brings us to the moment you've all been waiting for, our email of the week. And as teased earlier in the show, Sean writes in and says, "To what extent can antivirus or mobile security apps compensate for an outdated version of Android and/or an outdated Android security patch?" Do you sense a theme to these emails, everyone?
Yeah.
I'm not someone who necessarily needs to have a device that is running the latest versions of Android, but security is very important to me. And this is a very interesting topic, and it's really interesting because actually friend of the show, Ryan Whitwam, wrote an article for Extreme Tech last year that basically said Android antivirus apps are useless. They don't check apps for malicious behavior usually. And he said, if you do nothing else, keeping your downloads limited to the Play Store and other 100% trustworthy sources will keep you safe from almost all threats out there. The antivirus apps are at best redundant and at worst a detriment to your system performance. And I got to agree with them. Going back to what we said earlier, leveraging the work that Google's doing in the Play Store is the best tool you have to protect yourself from maliciousness. But the thing is that, nothing can really, the problem with the gap that not having these security updates do is that, while you're being protected by the App Store, you might still be vulnerable to things that happened since your last security patch that while the App Store hopefully is catching, there's always a chance that something slips through, that something references an old exploit that isn't truly covered that you get from on the OS level. But I don't know what my gut on the percentage would be, but I feel like for the most part, if you're using a phone that isn't getting security updates anymore and you're sticking to the Google Play Store, for the most part, you're going to be covered because of that work Google's doing ahead of you. I don't know, Juan, do you agree? Or I mean, after that, great rant about security updates, but that said,
Yeah, I completely agree, where a lot of this is also kind of on consumer behavior. It's why we're concerned for some people, because they might not be using their devices in the safest ways that they can. They might be clicking on weird links in their emails. They might be surfing through weird sections of the internet through browsers. We can't. Security is such a fluid battleground that we can't fully encapsulate all this. And to that same token, both the App Store and Google Play, we've seen instances of malicious software and malware make it through. Recently, Apple we through the disclosure in the Epic lawsuit, we just saw how Apple handled 120 million compromised iPhones. And they didn't really disclose that to the people that were affected by that exploit. So there's never a surefire, this platform is safe, so I can do dumb things on my phone. More often than not, even when you're following best practices, you're entirely up to date, all of your patching is done, there could still be other exploits that haven't been disclosed yet. So it really is like, you want to just follow the best practices that you can, update the software from reputable services, stay up to date on the platforms that you use, keep up with the news if you're really concerned about those security things, and then just try to not do unsafe things with your pocket computer.
Open a message that is offering you a vaccination spot, because apparently that's the newest Android.
Oh, God, that's horrible.
I know.
Well, so here's a question. Is there an opportunity, is there a business idea for someone to build security patch support for expired phones, for manufacturers that aren't doing security patch updates? Could that be a service that you have, that you have a phone that is no longer getting security updates by your manufacturer, but here, subscribe to this and we'll keep your phone protected? I wonder why anyone hasn't chased that down yet. I wonder if Google doesn't allow it. Yeah.
No, I would love to see it, and it might not even be Google. I feel like if you were to make that a monetized business, as opposed to some of the, you still see the communities of people that are out there making custom ROMs for phones and Lineage OS, and there are Ron, I think you're on you're on point. There is a business model that could be explored, but I worry the company that would try to make that a business model would have to work very closely with Google and with the chipset manufacturers. So Qualcomm and MediaTek, really digging into the SoCs. And then you can only go so far. If Qualcomm has pulled, patches and updates and support for an older tier of SoC, you might not be able to continue offering the best security and up-to-date software for an older device too. And this is why we've seen, Samsung is making this promise on 4 years of security patching, at the same time as we're hearing from Qualcomm that on their most recent generation of chips, their most recent generation of SoCs, they're looking to extend support. So this isn't just Samsung being magnanimous, it's probably Samsung working with Google and working with Qualcomm to say, we want to do this as a tangible benefit, as a cost, and as a service for our customers. What do we need to do to make that happen? And it's a big behind the scenes deal behind these mega corporations to enable that. I'm not sure someone just looking to cut software for Android updates is going to have the same kind of clout to be able to tackle meetings with companies at that tier.
It's true. Yeah. It's valid. It's probably too
Wow.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful, beefy member section.
It was. So you can write in and you could hopefully get to be the email of the week. Just email us at AAA@twit.tv. That's AAA@twit.tv. Or you can call 347-SHOW-AAA. Or you can email AAA@twit.tv and send a video or voice message. We'd like to hear from you as well. But yeah, you never know. It doesn't need to be just purely written to be the email of the week.
As long as it's in an email. It just needs to be an email. It doesn't matter like what it is. Exactly. Well, now it's time for us to start saying our unfortunate goodbyes because it's been a really nice time hanging out with you, Juan Bagnell. You're just a delight, and we really appreciate having you here and the things you have walked us through today, always with your expertise. Juan, is there anything you'd like to point folks to? This is your chance to tell people how awesome you are and where they can go support you if they're interested.
I'm around the internet. I mean, you can catch up with all of my personal content, somegadgetguy.com. I'm co-hosting a stream with my very good friend TK Bay called The Best of Our Week. We've started up our own little new YouTube channel just to kind of catch up. Especially, we're hoping to start doing them in person. But, we're good pals. We live in Southern California, and we haven't been able to hang out like we wanted to. So that's just a nerdy hangout every Thursday night. And then I've also been cutting some industry news for reviews.org, looking at carriers, ISPs, and some of the politics that goes into things like we recently covered the emergency broadband benefit and the changing definition of broadband. We're hoping to see some improvement there for consumers across the board, but then also broadband in rural areas getting the right expansion. So I could probably, if someone wanted to, they could probably fill almost every waking moment of their week with some kind of commentary coming out of my face. So maybe don't do that. But if you want to find me, I'm around, and I'm covering a lot of these topics on a number of different sites.
Well, I think that's a delightful way to spend time, Juan. I think
exactly
absorbing your content is a great.
I was going to say, I spend many
it.
days with my favorite podcasters if they put out more than one podcast. So thank you, Juan, for your content.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a OnePlus 9 Pro video coming out tomorrow. So it's going to be 26 minutes long.
Yep.
If you really want to hear me talk about a OnePlus 9 Pro, that'll be the video to check out.
And we know you'll do it absolute justice. Thank you so much, Juan. Until next time. Ron, thank you for being my partner in crime here every week, and my brother from another mother who shares the same birthday as me.
Anytime, Flo. Anytime. Did you have a nice birthday and a nice Mother's Day?
I did, actually. I had a really wonderful. I just ate my way through Napa. So
nice. That's a good way to do it.
Who would ask for anything more? Very Taurus-like birthday. Yeah. What about you, Ron? Did you do anything?
Mine was lovely. I got to celebrate with my lovely wife and Mother's Day and kids and family. It was a great weekend. It was a good time. And you can follow me over on Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO, where every now and then I pause from that good time and post nonsense. So you check that out. And also check out scorebit.io. Check out our fun. I keep saying check out. It's like the content creator's nemesis is the term check out. But head over to that's the other one. Head over to scorebit.io where you can see the fun things we're doing with pinball machines. And you can download the Scorebit app in the Google Play Store for Android, where you can keep track of your pinball scores. Like I said last week, we're working on the latest version of the app. We've got some really cool stuff coming out that I'll be excited to talk about when it does come out. It should be like in a week or two. So testing is real. UAT is real. QA is important. Support your devs. So.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Ron, for finding time from your busy schedule to be here and help me do the show.
Oh, wouldn't miss it. Have been doing it every Tuesday for the last 10 years.
I know. I
can't stop, Flo. I'm kind of concerned.
I know.
We just keep showing up.
I can't stop either, and apparently I can't stop writing about Android stuff and smart home stuff and a bunch of other stuff for Gizmodo.com. So if that's where you want to go check me out, I've got an author page there. I work for them, so that's where you'll find my writing. Otherwise, I'm here on the TWiT network. I'm also on the Relay FM network on Material Podcast with the Andy and Notco. And if you need any more information about me, you can go to flowrights.tech. to get to my author page on Gizmodo, or go to florenceion.com for everything else. I want to thank also Burke for being here today. Again, after being fully vaccinated and dealing with fever dreams. So thank you, Burke.
You're welcome.
Burke is the best. He's the man.
Also want to shout out Victor, who is usually here, but today Victor has the day off because it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Victor. Yay. So many Tauruses run this show, I tell you. We're a grounded bunch. What can I say? Hey, if you want to support us here at TWiT, or you just want to get more content into your inboxes and your Pocket Cast catchers, and you want access to a Discord community that's alive and bustling, you want to join Club TWiT. Club TWiT is our ad-free subscription tier, all our shows with no ads, and also an exclusive TWiT Plus podcast feed with tons of extra content, plus that members-only Discord. It's $7 a month. Ron and I are in that Discord. And, you know, as things go on, you'll probably be hearing us talk a little bit in there, too. So sign up if that's something you're interested in. Hey, going forward, don't forget to wear a mask. Save some lives. If you need to get in contact with us, remember, AAA@twit.tv. That's our inbox. You can still leave us a voicemail, 347-SHOW-AAA. You can also subscribe to us at twit.tv/AAA. Be sure to sub to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment on the iTunes. That stuff always helps us out. And I guess from here, we just say, see you next week. Be safe. Bye, everybody.
So long.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. If you would like to check out more about tech news, then you should check out Tech News Weekly with me, Micah Sargent, my co-host Jason Howell, where we interview the people making and breaking the tech news every week.